There we go. We got something.
Yay.
Can you hear?
Hold on, let me step in.
Just delay. Okay.
You got audio though.
All right. We are what we are. What is this?
Okay, I'm getting out of this.
Okay. Okay. We're ready.
Okay. You need to tell Jerry?
Yes.
Thank you for your patience, everybody. I apologize for the technical difficulties. It's always fun working with technology. It is live. We are ready to begin. Thank you.
Yay, thanks. You guys give Hillary a big round of applause. You're amazing.
It's always fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so if you don't know who I am, I'm Jerry Langley. I am the campus director here at Gadsden State. They brought me on February of last year as campus director. Previous to that, I was office administration instructor, and before that, I worked in admissions and records and financial aid. So started out as a student and then a work study student, and I've just worked my way up through the ranks here at Gadsden State. I have a personal connection with all three of our speakers today, and we will talk about that. I want to give them some introductions. Are you guys ready? Yeah. So first we have Miss Juanita Hendricks Palmer. Come on up to the stage, Miss Juanita. Yeah, girl. Okay. So I first met Miss Juanita when I used to go to the gym. I don't go to the gym anymore, obviously.
Obviously, me neither.
And she would always help me get ready for the hydro table, because that was the place to go after you worked out. So that's when I first met her. But she was born in Anniston, Alabama, and is a proud graduate of Anniston High School and Gadsden State Community College. Yay, go Cardinals. She's the owner of Juanita Hendricks Insurance Agency located in Oxford, Alabama. She still lives here, right? She's been serving her community in the insurance industry for 4 years, and she loves interacting with her clients and helping them find solutions that best fits their families. You did good writing this, girl.
Oh, yeah.
Although being an insurance agent is what she does for a living, there's so much more. She is the host of her very own TV show on TV 24. If you haven't seen it, it's really good. Yeah. Juanita's Spotlight of the Month, where she takes time to spotlight people in her community. You haven't had me on there yet.
We still got time. It's coming.
Her beliefs align with her company's mission to enrich the lives of people in the community in which she serves. Juanita has hosted backpack drives, toy drives, breast cancer awareness events, sponsored many schools throughout the county. Although to some she may do a lot, Juanita says she's just getting started, and I firmly believe that in her. She uses her influence to help gain help because with different outreach events, because we're so much better together. She's a mother of 2 girls. They're 23. They're twins, right?
Yeah, 23 and 14.
23 and 14. Okay.
Oh, no, I got to stop you. Because my 14 thinks she's 23, and my 23-year-old acts like she's 14.
So I am proud to know Miss Juanita as a friend and a business partner with her. We partnered together and we helped her with the toy drive and anything else she needs. She's like, Jerry.
Right.
So we are so glad to have you. So you can have a seat, and that way we can get ready for the panel discussion. All right, next we have Dr. Janet Babanese. I also have a personal connection with Dr. Babanese. She was my instructor when I was a student at Jacksonville State University in the education program. So I'm thrilled to have her here, and her husband Greg and I worked together during the tornado relief event that happened in Jacksonville. So she currently serves Jacksonville State University as Assistant Vice Provost for Advising. I tell her she's a big wig now.
I just have a long title, but it really doesn't mean that much.
She has an MSc in Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages, an MSc in Reading Specialist, and an EDD in Elementary Education with a concentration in literacy. If you don't know anything else, remember she is the Snap, Sparkle, Shine.
That's right.
That's what she used to teach us. Dr. Bavanese earned her EDD from the University of Alabama, where her dissertation focused on teacher education through an integrated multi-literacies curriculum. Dr. Bavanese has significant experience in administration of higher education, accreditation, data analysis, and program improvement, science of reading, and instructional coaching. She has served in multiple instructional and administrative roles in the P through 12 and higher education environments at Miami-Dade County Public Schools as a regional reading coach at the Alabama Reading Initiative and as College of Education and Professional Studies Associate Professor. Woo! Associate Dean, Interim Dean, and Assistant Vice Provost at JSU. She served more than 2 decades in education and has been at Jacksonville State University since 2011. Dr. Bavanese is a LETRS facilitator and loves providing professional development for pre- and in-service teachers, especially in literacy strategies. Her current role at JSU, Assistant Vice Provost for Advising, leverages her experience and expertise to improve college to career outcomes for student success. Dr. Bavanese has a range of depths of experience and knowledge relating to student success. She is a recipient of multiple state and federal grants and served as a content specialist on others. She is currently re-envisioning advisement and career at JSU as Assistant Vice Provost for Advising. Under her direction, in the past year and a half, the university has flipped from a faculty-based advising model to a professional advisement team, which I think is really cool, as someone who advises. Managing a team of 35 across 6 colleges, she actively builds advisement protocols and professional development to centralize advising efforts for student success. Furthermore, she has designed a model that integrates academic and career advisement so that students are better prepared for workforce needs. Dr. Bavanese continues to lead across campus to improve outcomes for students along the college to career pathways. So we are very appreciative to have you here. Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have Miss Sierra Smith. Come on down, Sierra. She gets embarrassed. So, Miss Sierra is a native of South Anniston. She was born in 1999 to Ralph Nettles and Christina Smith, who would later become an Anniston High School alum, class of 2017, and Spelman College grad, class of 2020. At the age of 16, Sierra began her first job at the City of Anniston Financial Department, where she would be exposed to the inner workings of the local government. During her freshman year of college, she campaigned under the first African American woman mayor in the city of Atlanta. Is it Keisha Lance Bottoms, as well as traveling to South America to study politics. At the age of 18, she was inducted into Forbes 30 Under 30 as a fellow and traveled to Boston, Massachusetts to join top entrepreneurs, celebrities, and visionaries for relevant industry conversations, programming, and networking opportunities. At the age of 19, Sierra interned with the United States House of Representatives under Congressman Hank Johnson, who represents the 4th District of Georgia. At 20 years old, Sierra spent her summer as an apprentice for J.P. Morgan and Chase, where she participated in the inaugural 6-week full-time Advancing Black Pathways apprenticeship program focused on exposing students to hands-on experience, project-based curriculum, and professional readiness. She was then nominated by Congressman Hank Johnson to join the Congressional Black Caucus Institute Training Boot Camp in Washington, D.C. this summer. She was among some of the greatest political influences of our nation. In November of 2020, at the young age of 21, Sierra was deemed the youngest ever elected official in the city of Anniston, not just as council member of the 3rd Ward, but also as vice mayor. Her mission is determined by one goal: impact over everything. I also have a personal connection with Miss Sierra, as I was able to teach her. I was her Sunday school teacher. She was just a young lad in the youth. So that is my personal connection to her. Thank you, ladies, for being here.
Jerry, before you start, I just want to plug the trio. She's also a
Yes.
alum as well. She came through the Gaston Ayers campus alum, upper Manhattan.
Yes, she did. All right. so I gave them some questions, so they are going to answer these questions. But if you guys have other questions, come on, Tracy. Look, we got the front row just for your students right up here. We saved this front row just for you guys. No, you're good. Thanks for bringing them, Tracy. Yes, sir. We're up to be done around 10.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the very first question, and I'd like each of you to answer the questions, okay? Because each answer could be different depending on your role and your responsibilities. So what is your definition of leadership? Dr. Babanese?
I'll start with that. So my definition of leadership is guidance. So I think of a good leader as a good guider. So when I think of leadership and in my leadership activities, I sort of envision where I want the team to go, and then I help everyone to sort of catch the vision, contribute to the vision, and I guide them through the different benchmarks to reach goals. So I think of leadership and guidance as synonymous.
I mean, leadership, I could give 50 million different definitions. I think leadership changes as you grow, and it also depends on the atmosphere that you're leading. I guess for me, leadership means being extremely selfless. You have to put others before yourself, and you have to be willing to get down with the foot soldiers. Leadership does not necessarily mean, oh, you're up dictating what people should do. You're down there on the ground working with others. So in that case, you must be a follower first before you become a leader. So.
She took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, leader, you have to be able to follow. But to me, a leader is the one that sets the example. A leader is the one that says, again, it's not being a ruler. It's the one that says, hey, there's no I in team and there's no I in we. So it's all about us. So the leader is the one that just says, okay, I'm the one that's going to make sure that we're going to do all this, make sure everything is in place. But at the same time, I have your interests. I have your needs in mind as well.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll start with Ms. Juanica on this one. Define women's empowerment and equality, and what is the difference?
That's okay, you started with me. Okay. Y'all done messed up. They didn't give me coffee. So, let me just say that Emily does my hair sometimes, and she be like, oh my God, I can tell you had your coffee this morning. But to me, women's empowerment, oh my goodness. So everybody in here say, just turn to somebody else and say, I came to empower you. Okay, so the word empower means power. Power is you got the authority to do something, right? Empower means I'm imparting what I have on the inside of you to somebody else. And so I can empower you to be more positive. I can empower you, even if it's just giving you an ear to listen to, to listen to your issues or whatever you have going on. Empower means I'm doing something about me that's going to make your life a little bit better. And so we all leave each day thinking that, okay, how can I make your life better instead of what it's all about me and what my needs are? I think we'll be in a better place. And equality, that is something on my job, I'm an insurance agent, in case anybody doesn't know it. And unfortunately, insurance agents, there are not a lot of African American females, not African American period, but there's not a lot of African American females in our industry. With my company, Country Financial, there's not a lot at all. And so I am part of something called She Has It, and I'm part of something that's called Rise. Rise is something that allows other people, people of color, to make everybody feel like they're a part of the organization.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm a talker.
No, you're good, Sierra.
So I'll start with equality. I really don't like that word a lot of times, and let me explain why. Because, during the women's suffrage movement, or let's say when African Americans gain the right to vote. You would think that's equality, right? Because now we have the same right as others. However, there were things set in place that prohibited us from being able to exercise those rights. Equity means we're the same playing level. We have the same resources. We have the same access to opportunity. Equality just means here it is, just for me to say that you have it. That's how I view diversity and inclusion. Diversity and inclusion has to be more than just we're hiring black people to be able to say, we got black people here. It has to be able to, it means giving them an opportunity, a seat at the table. And not only a seat at the table, but to be able to have a voice. And so that's why I think equality is it's such an overused word, because it doesn't mean much if we're not offering the same to all. Empowerment is important to me because I speak to a lot of young girls all the time who've been through a lot in their life, who've been through a lot of the things that I've been through, which I won't get into much because that's a whole testimony within itself. But I want young women, and even young men, but I really want young women to be able to see me and say, that's attainable. What she's doing is attainable. That's something that I can achieve at 15 years old, 16 years old, not when you're 40 years old. Those things are attainable where you are in your life. Now that means making good decisions, but I hope that my life and my testimony can be empowering to young women, that they don't have to, wait 50 years from now to be successful. So that's what that means to me.
All right. So I'll start with empowerment. I think it's such an important principle. And I find in my role, I talk to a lot of students, like the students that we have here. And I talk to a lot of university faculty and staff and others. And so many times what they need is for someone to hear them and to help them find their voice so that they can then be empowered to go out and do what they need to do or what they want to do to reach the goals that they have set for themselves. So to me, empowerment is something that I think I do every day in my walk as a leader. So many times people need the word of encouragement, they need the example, they need to see the representation that they can do something, that they can achieve something, or they need to understand how to negotiate relationships, how to apply for certain things, or they may not know opportunities that are available to them. So I think when we as leaders help empower others, we're giving them really the keys to a successful future, and we're helping them to achieve it. So empowerment is very important. I do agree with the equality and equity. Coming from a background in education, those are terms that you hear all the time. Equity does not mean the same thing as equality. And I've been asked so many times over my career as an educator, well, what does that mean? It means exactly as it was described here. We can all be equal, but that doesn't mean that we have equity. We need to make sure that everybody not only has equal opportunity, but we also need to make sure that we're providing and differentiating what everyone needs. One size does not fit all. And I know this from clothes, and you probably all know it from clothes too, but it's true in life. I may need to help you. Yes, we all have the same opportunity, but I may need to help you differently than I need to help someone else. And so those two things are not interchangeable, but many people think they are.
I love those answers. Good job. How do you actively communicate with women at your workplace to make them feel included? And Sierra, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Juanita and then Dr. Baptiste.
So it's a bit interesting for me, simply because I don't work at a establishment, like in a building. I'm a city councilwoman, so I don't have to go in the office all the time, and I have my own political consulting business, research and strategy. So I deal with myself a majority of the time as far as the workplace is involved. But I do have a fellow councilwoman that we are probably 40 years apart, but she's kind of like my best friend. And I think that we encourage one another in our own respective areas. We respect one another. She respects what I bring to the table. I respect what she brings to the table. I know that she can give something that I can't, and vice versa. And so that's just something that we feed off of each other for. A prime example is she loves animals. I'm not going to say that I love animals. I'm kind of scared of them all, but we know that when there are issues with animals in the city, she's the go-to person for it. When there's issues with our education system, Innocent City school system, the counselors come to me for my opinion because that is something that I am passionate about. And so those different perspectives, we know, who does well and what. So it's just it's a level of respect that we have for one another, and what we bring into each other's lives and workplace.
My turn. How do we actively communicate with women in our workplace? Well, I work by myself. So I have conversations with myself all day long. But no, all joking aside, because I do work by myself, I think it's important. I do reach out to other agents in our industry, not in industry, in our business, in our company. And I started a mentorship program. And so what I do is when someone new comes on, I call them and I do a video with them and I encourage them because I didn't have that. And even though I'm bubbly and all of that, I'm really a loner. So that's why when I hear around folks, y'all can't shut me up. But I do have a passion to help other people get to the next level where they need to be. And so that's what I do.
Communication is so important, and we live in a society where we can communicate in many ways. We can communicate through texting. I could send an emoji and you would understand pretty much what I'm saying. Or we can communicate face to face. We can communicate in so many ways virtually. I find that communication is very important. Communication is a two-way street. I need to understand what I'm trying to communicate, but I also bear a responsibility to make sure the other person can receive that, but I also need to be able to receive what they're thinking. So thinking about communication, I spend all of my days, every day, I think I should be, assistant vice provost of communication, because that's what I do. I have to talk to students, I have to talk to faculty, I talk to my staff, I talk to other offices on campus, financial aid, admissions. So there's so much opportunity for things to go awry in all of those everyday communications. So when I talk to anyone, whether it's a woman or whether it's a man, but I do speak to a lot of women, I need to communicate in ways that honors what they're bringing to the conversation. I need to make sure that I'm truly listening to understand. I find that if you're listening to come up with a fast answer, and I've been in meetings where the people across the table are not listening, they're thinking up their answer or the way that they're going to push back or combat what I'm saying. And so I think, communication, there's responsibility on both sides, and it's very important. And when you are confronted with communication that goes awry, then you do bear a responsibility to listen, to model that good behavior back to them, so that you can move forward. So many things break down because communication is not there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We'll start with Juanita on this one. How do we go about breaking down barriers that hold women back, from discriminatory laws to unfair share of home and family care?
Well, for me, that's I have to go back to the mentorship and the program that I'm part of. I don't want to call them forward, but the organizations that we have, like the She Has It and the Rise. That's one of the things that we can do. Is just implementing different resources. It's a resource for people to come to. If I am a woman of color and I feel like I'm not feeling treated correctly, we have something with there. Or if I don't feel like I'm not necessarily treated correctly, I don't feel like I have the same opportunity, and or the same resources. I can go. I have this organization say, hey guys, we need to change this. And one of the things that I noticed within our company is that we are across the United States. And we have the She Has It. Well, you have to be a She Has. I'm a She Has It ambassador, but we have agency managers and She Has It. And all of the agency managers throughout our company, we have not one woman of color, not one. And so that's a barrier to me. And so for me, that's just something that I want to make sure that we got to make opportunities for other people to be able to be on this. To have a seat at the table.
Absolutely. Dr. Babanese?
So, would you repeat the question?
How do we go about breaking down barriers that hold women back, from discriminatory laws to unfair share of home and family care?
So, yes, it's very difficult to be a woman in the workplace for many reasons. I was a single mother for many years and worked my way up through different levels, and so I had literally everything on my head and shoulders. And I am married now. My husband is retired, so that helps me a lot with the home and health work, because I kind of expect him to do those things so that I can now pursue what I need to do. And most of the time that works out well. Some of the time it doesn't. But I do think it's important for women to understand that they can achieve. There are glass ceilings. The glass ceiling is real, whether it's something cultural, or whether it's that you're just in an industry or career that's not particularly friendly to women. When I was growing up, which I think I'm pretty much older than both of you, everybody that was a girl, you were either going to be a teacher or a nurse. Those were really your two choices. So, I started out in college wanting to be a nurse, and I changed to teaching, never really thinking that I would end up in an administrative role. So my journey has changed over time. But it's interesting when you're trying to move up through the ranks and you're competing against others, or you're trying to break into what is commonly, where men hold power and leadership. It's hard to get there. You have to be sure that you're doing all the things we've already talked about, empowering yourself, looking for opportunities for, equity and equality. How can you leverage that to reach your goals? Making sure your communication is always good. I'm always mindful. I don't want anybody to be able to say anything about me that would be a cliche or would be a reason to say, oh, well, but that's, she's an older woman, so she doesn't really get it or whatever. So I think it's important to hold that power yourself so that you can achieve what you need to do.
I think if you have an impoverished mindset, you're going to live a very impoverished life. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I was in the foster care system. I went through a lot in life, but that didn't deter me from demanding respect. I knew that simply because I'm a human being and God created me, that I deserved respect. And so that's something that I've, gone through or matriculated as a belief that I've held as I've gone through life. And something I always say to people, if you don't do it, who else is going to do it? You cannot be afraid to stand firm in what you believe in, not just as a woman, but just as a human being. We've got to stop differentiating by labels. I am still a human, regardless of my, regardless of what my makeup is. I am still a human being, and so that's something that that I encourage you all to have, whatever space that you're in. Whether is this a cosmetology class? Demand respect because you deserve it. I think that's an important attribute to have, and it's going to be hard. You're going to be met with a lot of opposition because you're young and because you're a woman on a consistent basis. Even when you get to the table, please don't think because you're invited to the table that you're important. Because what they'll do is, like that diversity inclusion thing that I was telling you all about earlier, they'll invite you to the table, but what matters is your voice heard at the table. And so that's a constant thing that you're going to have to fight, but you have to stand firm in what you believe in. And the confidence that you have within yourself, remember, what you believe is who you become. So I want to feed myself positive things. As far as unfair share of home and family care, if you're working a job at the same as your spouse and he's not helping you, then you probably need a new partner. I think it's important that you guys have really good conversations about the weight that you carry in your home, and if he's the right one for you, or vice versa. If she's because you don't want a lazy woman either. If she's the right person for you, you guys will help one another. It's not about, back in the day, there were more of a traditional role sense because women weren't allowed to do so much. But now we're vice presidents, we're CEOs, we're provosts, we're out here doing the dang thing. But we're doing the dang thing. So, we have just as much responsibility in the workplace as a man does. So it's important to have those conversations and say, hey, can you pick up where I'm slacking and vice versa? And if you can't do that in your relationship, then you're not in a good one. So, there you go. Did everybody answer on that one? All right. Okay. Describe your leadership style and how you lead others. Is it different from your male counterparts? Dr. Babanese, we'll start with you again.
So I've already kind of said a little bit about my leadership style. I do believe in guiding and partnering with the team. I do think it's important to, when you're working with a team, and I have a large team, and I've been in a leadership role that demands me to work with others for many years. And I do think it's important not to be the one that's just telling everyone what to do. Although if I need to tell you what to do, I will do it, and sometimes that is necessary. But most of the time, we're gonna work collaboratively. I'm gonna hear. I like to hear from my people. Everybody brings a different perspective to the table. Everybody has different background experiences, and those come to bear on what we do every day. So my leadership style is very collaborative. I like to talk. So if I find something on my team that's not working or something that I have a question about, I'll shoot an email out, pull some people together, and we'll talk it through. I also practice something that I call courageous leadership, and this is really a cornerstone of what I do. I am courageous in my decision making. That courageous can mean that I step out on a limb, I will go to bat for people, I will advocate, I will do what I need to do to push something forward, but I will also be courageous when I know that something isn't right, or when I know that a leadership decision doesn't benefit everyone, or when we try something that doesn't work. That takes more courage than anything else. And I find that a lot of leaders are not able to do that. And so many times I've been in meetings, I've been in situations, and if people would just say, hey, that's true, we did that, let's back up, figure this out, and move forward, with this information. Now that we know, we can make better decisions. But being that courageous leader means that you have to be able to admit that and do that on both sides of that equation. So that is really the cornerstone of my leadership philosophy.
Sierra?
I feel like I have a very hands-on approach within my leadership. Like I said, you want to be down there with the foot soldiers. You don't want to be only speaking at council meetings or speaking at town halls. People need to see you. Your presence matters, and so that's something that I strive to do, even if it means going to 5 events in one day. But it's needed, it's definitely needed. And so I know this is recorded, so sorry, Jack, Dee Dee, and Jay. I do feel like I have a very different approach to leadership than my male counterparts on the council, which is not a bad thing because, like I said, we all offer different perspectives. That is much needed. But I would say I'm a bit more, and I hate the term aggressive for women. I can't stand that term. But I'm very assertive. I'm very transparent and honest. Not that you guys aren't, because you are. But I'm very transparent and honest with my beliefs. Regardless of what people say or what people feel about me, I'm going to stick to what I believe. And not only that, I'm not going to believe something and be ignorant about it. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to make sure that I understand numbers, because numbers don't lie, people do, and that's something that I've learned as being a councilwoman. So when I lead, I'm going to lead with a hands-on approach, and I'm going to lead effectively. I'm going to lead with truth. I'm going to lead with knowledge and doing my proper research. And I think that's extremely important, especially in my line of work, because when people think of politicians, they think of people who lie all the time. And that's just not someone of, who I am at this stage in my life. I want to just be real. People need somebody real, and to be genuine about the work that we are doing, especially not necessarily as politicians, but just as leaders in general. But like I said, I think that perspective is needed, especially in politics in Alabama. That perspective is definitely needed, and that's something that I encourage others to do.
So if you're taking notes, I will say it again because I think this is powerful. Numbers don't lie. Great quote. Monica?
Yes, as far as leadership goes for me, let me just say, as a leader, one of the things that I feel like, let me just talk about a leader before we talk about leadership. Is that okay?
Yes.
As a leader, you have to know what your weaknesses and your strengths are. It's not, being a leader is not pointing out what you do, what you didn't do, what you do. Sometimes being a leader, you gotta take some time to yourself and step back and say, okay, I could have done this a little bit better. I can do this, I could have said this a little bit better. I could have did this, or I could have made my environment a little bit better. For me, as far as leadership in my, like I said, I'm owner of my own business, my I got one employee. But when I was, if I can be different from my agency manager who hired me, I went through training. It was a 3-week training. I drove to Birmingham, for 3 weeks, and then they sent me to Illinois for a week, and then it was like, oh, you out there on the island by yourself. I don't have any other agents in the area. Y'all, raise your hand if you ever heard of Country Financial. Okay. Okay, so not many of you. So I'm the only agent in our area. And so I didn't have anybody else to call on. I didn't have somebody else to help. So that's again why I have to, what would make me different if I was to step into a leadership role than my male counterpart, so to speak, is that I'm gonna make sure that there is something in place to not only to help you along the way, not just to help you get started. And I'm all about empowering people and making people feel better. And what can we do to help you get to that next level?
There you go, good. Let's see, who do I wanna start with? I'm gonna start back with you, Anika, okay? When you began, I was trying to rotate y'all out, okay?
Okay.
But then I lost track of who did what. All right, when you began your career, did you ever imagine that you would have a leadership role in this profession, organization, or I'm gonna add community?
Oh, wow. Well, let me just say this. No. I was working, I used to work for Anderson Fitness Center. You know, you can look at me now and tell. And I found myself at a time what I call the darkest season of my life. I didn't have a job.
You're good, you're
I
good.
didn't have a job. I was the one that helped everybody, right? And so I found myself in the season. So I ended up I was working at a place called GSCC. I just started working there, and I hadn't been there for a month. And I noticed these people coming in, their insurance rates was a whole lot less than mine. And I'm blessed to say I was an agent with Country before I started working for Country.
There you go.
Okay, and so I called my agent. I said, hey, Mr. Jim, these folks' insurance is less than mine. And he explained it to me. And he said, what are you doing up there? I said, well, I'm standing to get my license. I just started working up here. And he said, you need to come run my office. And it terrified me. I hadn't even got my insurance license. I've been working there, and what I do, and nothing against U.S. agency, is totally different. Like, it's just totally different. And I said, I don't know anything about being a business owner. I don't know anything about that. And I stepped into a season so I did that month training, and then after that month, y'all, I thought everybody I knew was gonna come and do an insurance with me. I thought all my family was gonna come. So that was an eye opener for me. And so that whole year, I became good at a lot of folks, because I'm like, wait a minute, I hired you, I gave you a job, but you can't even give me a chance. You know, you're my friend, you're my best friend, and you mean to tell me that you won't even want to do insurance with me? And so I had to take that self-look, and I had to take a look in the mirror. And then I had a conversation with God, and God had to tell me, he said, you know what, if you don't count the numbers, I will make the numbers count. And so I started saying, well, God, I'm goofy. I mean, people ain't gonna do business with me. I'm this, I'm that. And he said, watch this. You just sit back and watch this. I'm gonna make what you think are your insecurities, I'm gonna make them your best qualities. And so then my business started changing, my numbers started changing. Then I started saying, well, God, I'm gonna focus on your people. I'm gonna let you focus on my business. And that's when my business started growing. And that's when I started getting into, okay, that's my passion, is helping people. I have an event. I hardly ever talk about my business at my events. Speaking of events, if you want to come to my Women's Empowerment this Saturday, please get with me afterwards. It's absolutely free. Again, because I want to my mission is to impact the lives of the community I serve. And if I live by that. It's not just something that I say. So.
Awesome. Dr. Bevanese?
Did I ever envision myself sitting in this role? No. Did I ever envision myself being successful? Yes. So I also started out at a community college, at Miami-Dade Community College in Miami, trying to get a 2-year associate's degree in early childhood development, because my husband left me on the morning of Hurricane Andrew, which hit my house. If you're familiar with Hurricane Andrew, Category 5 hurricane in Miami, and on that very morning, standing in the yard with my house blown up around me, my husband said to me, stop crying. now we can just split and go our separate ways. So I had been like a stay-at-home mom, like I was the room mom, you know, all of that. So I was completely shocked, like shock and awe for real. So I knew that I had to get myself in gear immediately. So I enrolled at Miami-Dade Community College, and ever since then, I have climbed and gone to the next rung every step of the way through hard work and perseverance. I don't know where I'll end up. I'm not done, I do know that. But I have always looked for opportunities. So right when all of that happened to me, I said, you know, I can do two things. I can lay down and cry, or I can get up and do it. And I got up and did it. And scratched my way back from that unbelievable event that occurred, you know, to me. I do think it's important to keep in mind that you should always be open and look for opportunities. So when something happens to you and you have to start moving forward in your life, or you have to start doing something, don't ever be just satisfied. That's how I've ended up. And I've heard Jerry say she's worked up through the ranks, and you've certainly done many things, and you've done many things. You should 100% advocate for everybody. Be looking for where your opportunities are. And don't ever close yourself off to what you think you can do or you can't do. You can do what you need to do if you'll just look for the opportunities. So moving forward in leadership, you've got to be open to those things. And if you don't think you can do something, then you won't be able to do it. But if you think you can do something, and look, there's nothing wrong with moving up into a position and saying, you know, I need to learn some things. But good leadership is about understanding how to put all of these things together, not necessarily knowing exactly how to do the one thing, if that makes sense, that you're going to be leading. So I think, you know, did I ever envision myself here? Yes and no, but am I on a quest and I will keep going? Yes, absolutely.
And I think in that too, the word determination, determination.
And persistence.
And persistence.
Don't give up. That doesn't mean you won't have a valley and you won't cry or you won't say, what in the, you know, what's going on? But then you get it, but then you stay there for a second and you allow yourself time to feel your feelings, but you get right up and you keep going and you find the ways to get support and to do the things you need to do.
Sierra?
Like she said, yes and no. I think that from a very young age, I've always had a passion for wanting to help others. I've also always had a passion for politics and government. I got my first Facebook page when I was 13 years old, because at the time you had to be 13, you know, to even set up an account. I'm acting like that was forever. But at the time you had to be 13 years old, which I think it should be higher now, but it is what it is. And I was looking back, you know how you go to your Facebook memories and it pops up like old posts and stuff. 13 years old talking about politics and crazy things. I'm looking at this, my brother's 15, and I'm like, my brother Josiah doesn't even think about stuff like this. So, you know, I think God instills a lot in you when you're born at a young age, and as you grow, your environment cultivates what's already on the inside of you. And I don't think that when I was younger that I had a great community that cultivated that until I actually became a teenager and moved back to Anniston. So I went to Oxford for a few years, about 3 or 4 years, and then moved back into Anniston City Schools with my mother, when I moved back with my mother. And that's where people started encouraging me. Ms. Owens and Ms. Katrina were, you know, two of those people who always encouraged me, who gave me the platform to be able to speak. When I said something, they didn't say, oh, well, she's just a young one. You know, they didn't belittle me and the things that I said, and I think that's extremely important. I was in a space that cultivated the leadership on the inside of me. Even when I moved back to Anniston High School, you know, I had amazing teachers. When I would tell them that I was going to be the president one day, they believed it. You know, you tell kids all the time, oh, you know, you'll be the president, but you don't really think like, wow, one day they can be the president. And I don't think that in my mind at the time was achievable, like I said, until, you know, I was in high school. And so then I went off to college, and I started, you know, getting internships and opportunities, and people saw something in me that I don't think that I saw in myself. And it wasn't until I went to Washington, D.C., and it was the Congressional Black Caucus. I was 19 years old, and I was the youngest person in the room in the Congressional Black Caucus Institute boot camp. We had a class. There were dozens of us, and we had basically what we were there for, we were being trained in campaigning. I did not know that a few months later that I would be running for office. It was not what I thought it was going to be at all. And so anyways, basically we had a task where you were going to pretend to be a candidate, to run for a position, and you had to give a 4-minute speech. So it was myself and probably 10 others. 2 of them were already elected officials across the United States, so they've already, been in the game. And so I was so nervous because I was like, I'm 19, I'm not gonna win, but it's worth a try. And so we had this speech contest, and basically you won by the applause, how they voted for you. I think I was like the last, maybe second to last person to speak, and I got up there and I talked about the struggles that I faced in education being a student from innocent city schools. And because I attended both Oxford City Schools and Ennis City Schools, I was very passionate about the difference in education students were receiving based off their zip code, which I felt was very unfair because I'm a brilliant student, I'm a smart student, and just because I live in Anderson city limits doesn't mean that I deserve any less. So I started speaking about, some of the things that I experienced, and then I started naming young people by name. Cindy Lopez is now doing XYZ, and then I spoke about some of my counterparts who had been shot and killed, who deserved a better life, but the environment doesn't cultivate success, and what can we do to cultivate those things? And so I actually won that, and I was so surprised that they asked me to speak again at the United States Capitol the very next day in front of the Congressional Black Caucus. And that was such a momentous moment for me because I realized there's a lot of barriers that society will put on you, but it's about what you believe. And so that moment for me was like, girl, if you don't do it, who is going to? If you don't do it, who's going to? So I was like, you know what? I'm going home, and I'm going to change it for kids like me. They deserve something better. Whether that be their education, whether that be the roads that they're driving on, whether that be the lights that are on the street so that they can walk on the sidewalk and feel safe. I mean, it could be anything. I want to make it better for them because I didn't have that. So I came home. I was still in college. Luckily, let me not use that term. Unfortunately, COVID hit in 2020. So I came home and actually got to do some more hands-on campaigning because I was still in college when I announced my candidacy, and it just went from there. So, I felt like God instilled, I know I'm speaking for so long, but I feel like at a young age, God instilled so many qualities within myself, but He brought people and a community in my life that cultivated that. So, yes and no. I knew there was something I was going to do, didn't quite know what that was until God showed me, revealed that to me. So, sorry, that was so long.
No, I love it. And I will stand here and say, as a person who doesn't have the same political belief, I will vote for Sierra every single time because of her passion for her community and everything that she does. When she talks about data doesn't lie, people do. You can believe everything that Sierra says, and so I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we're going to skip a couple questions because we're getting close. So for those of you who don't know, I also own my own business. But I wanted to bring this up because I know Juanika owns her own business. But what advice do you have for women? Because some of our cosmetology students in here will be looking to have their own business. So what advice do you have for women looking to grow either their own business or within the company they work for? So we'll start with Juanika.
Again, okay. First thing I would say is, for one, you're already going to school to be, you know what you want to be. You want to do cosmetology. But I would also say study your area. Your location is important. But know your competition, and be the one that stands out. I have to stand. I don't want to be do y'all wanna be just a regular beauty salon just like everybody else is? They get the same service, they get the same, do something that sets yourself apart. Whether it's when that person leaves, hey, just wanna let you know, I thank you for coming by my shop today. What is gonna be different about your shop that's gonna be different than her shop? Besides the hairstyle. You know, so that's what I would say. Do something that sets yourself apart. Again, also I'm just a community person, right? So I believe that if you support your community, the community will support you. And I believe in what you put out in the atmosphere. Well, you know, and what you make happen for others, God will make happen for you. And so that's just me. That's the first thing that I would do, and just make your business about what you're passionate about. And make sure that before you open that business, that you're not doing it because it may be easy to you, but you're doing it because you're passionate about it. And I don't think that's something we talked about today is, are you doing something that you're passionate about? If you don't like people, why are you doing it? If you don't like, no, because you gotta deal with people. You have to, are you passionate about it, or are you doing it because you can make a little bit of money? There are people now that went to school for things, and they may be in that profession, but they're miserable. So do what you are passionate about, because when you are doing what you're passionate about, when your passion, baby, meets your purpose, listen, to me, that's the definition of success. When my passion meets my purpose. The passion
Write
is
that
that
down.
drive. Huh?
Write that down.
Oh yeah, when my passion meets my purpose, that's the definition of success for me. Everybody else has their own different. Because if you ask somebody, you tell somebody, that was a time when I thought making a certain amount of money, that was successful. But if you ask somebody, you say, well, I want to be successful because I make $100,000, but I get that job making $100,000. But if you find somebody there making $100,000, probably they want to make $2. So do not put success, put a dollar sign, and then also too, what is my why? What is the why behind what I'm doing? Am I doing it because I know I'm the best, or am I doing it because I want to do something that my children can say that they're proud of? My mama was the first business owner in my family. I'm doing this because I have a passion for people. When people come down and sit in my chair, you know what, they get a counselor. Y'all a counselor, y'all all kind of things. I know everything. I done told so much stuff to her, she be like, Lord, she can't wait out of you. We had a little disagreement, y'all, but I think she happy I ain't been in there for about 2 weeks. But my hair, y'all can tell I ain't been in there, right? But I'm transparent, I'm open. She know I'm silly and goofy, but she got to love it anyway. I'm gonna make you look, even when you mad at me. Because here's the thing, you want people to feel. Here's the thing, what do you want people to feel when they leave your presence? And if your experience with me was not the best, I wasn't the best self. I wasn't my best. And so just ask yourself, and what can I do to set myself apart? What does success look like for me? And am I following my passion? Can y'all say something for me real quick? I will become who God, I'm sorry, can you?
Go ahead.
Okay. I will become who God designed me to be. Let's say it like you mean it. I will become who God designed me to be. There's more in me than what I'm producing. Because the best for me, come on y'all, has yet to come.
All right, and I'm going to leave this as our last question, and I'm actually going to point it to Dr. Bavanese because you've experienced this. So how can we include women leaders that are moms and balance their time?
How can we include women leaders that are moms and balance their time? I think that goes back to understanding where someone is coming from and understanding that, people come to different professions or to different events or to different activities from a variety of backgrounds. So one of the things that, being a college professor, I've had lots of students that are coming to college, and some of you may be in this circumstance too, that are trying to achieve something, but at the same time they have a young family, or like myself, that I had to go back to school with an 8-year-old and no home to live in, due to a hurricane taking my whole life apart. So I think it's important to understand when you are trying to do all the things that we've talked about today, communicate, empower, help people to see their, find their own vision, help people to, exercise opportunities, help people to understand how to leverage the equity and the equality issues that they encounter. But I think it's important to always consider the other person, where the other person is coming from, and to understand that if you can't do something because your children demand something of you, or you are a struggling single mom, I'm going to try to understand it and to help and give you the support that you need so that you can get where you need to be. It's, that old saying, turn around and help the next one in line. You do have to turn around and help the next one in line. All of us need a helping hand to step up, and I think it's really important for us as women in leadership to do that, and to honor where people are coming from.
And she stands by her word. I was that single mom as a student in her class, and I couldn't afford internet. I was living in a little bitty apartment by myself and my kids, and couldn't afford internet. I couldn't afford gas to get back and forth. I would put my kids in the stroller and I'd go sit on the quad in front of Ramona Wood, where her office was, and I would sit in the yard and let the boys play, and I did my schoolwork using the internet there. You do, if you want it, you'll do it. You'll find a way. What questions, real quick, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes. What questions do you have for our ladies up here that we haven't already asked? Do you have any?
Well, I'm telling you, I'm not Beyonce, my name is Juanita. I know some of y'all been looking like
So I just figured I'd put that up there.
Do you guys have any questions? Well, I just want to say thank you to each of our speakers. I know you had to take times out of your busy lives and your days to come here for us. And so I just want to say thank you for doing that for us. And thank you to those who are watching. I hope you can't see me. For tuning in with us. I hope that this was informative to you. I want to say a shout out to Dr. Tara Simmons, who's in the back, if you'll raise your hand. This is our Vice President of Gadsden State. Thank you for empowering me and encouraging me in everything that I do for this campus, and for encouraging me to host this event. So thank you guys. All right, so there's some refreshments right there. Help yourself, mingle, and I'm assuming if you guys have some time, they can stay if you have any questions for them, okay? All right, thank you.
You're